Hi, everybody. Thank you for being in our session today. During the next 75 minutes, we're going to be talking about how to simplify the management of your Microsoft 365 workplace with analytics. My name is Etel Garcia, and I'm responsible for the Windows Developer Commercial audience in Microsoft. And today, they're going to be joining me on stage, Rama Sastry and Steve Diacetis, and they are part of the Windows Engineering Fundamental team. First of all, and before even get it even started, since there is a mix of audiences here, I want to kind of like have a sense how many people are related to developer roles, or they're more close to the developer software development. All right. I'm guessing that the rest are more focused on IT, infrastructure, operations. Right? Okay, perfect. I'm asking that question because in our session, we're kind of like bringing together those two audiences, and we want you to understand both sides of the coin when we talk about modernizing the workplace and Microsoft 365. So let's get started from the beginning. So you have heard Satya talking about digital transformation probably for the past 2 or 3 years, right? And when we talk about digital transformation, we always talk about how technology is helping within your enterprises to empower your employees, to optimize your operations, to transform and develop your product, and also to reach and bring more customers, right? And as part of the digital transformation talk that Microsoft does, we always said that it's not about the technology itself, it's about the people. Right? It's about you as part of that with the right tools that will help you in that transformation. So when we talk to enterprises across the world, you always asking us about what tools we can provide you to do that transformation better, to help you go into that transition, right? And one of the answers that we have to that question, the very first answer that we actually announced several months ago during Inspire. Inspire is our big conference from partners. It's Microsoft 365. And what Microsoft 365 brings together, it's a complete solution that brings together Office 365, Windows 10, and EMS, the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite. So what we're trying to do is we're providing you with a tool that is helping you starting and getting started during that modernization and modern IT scenario. So of course, these tools are not new, right? Part of you probably are using those tools already. So there is a lot of momentum around these 3 products already. And as you can see, we keep growing our Windows 10 monthly active users. We have more than 500 million. We also have more than 100 million commercial Office 365 accounts actively being used every month. There is also organization moving into Azure already, 12 million organization in the Azure Active Directory. So it looks like people are starting to move their modern IT into the cloud. And we have more than 90% of our Fortune 500 using the Microsoft Cloud. So with all that, what we have done is like packaged those 3 things in a way that it's easy for you to start doing that transformation. And it's easy to adopt and put together in front of your enterprises. But of course, reality, it's different, right? The way to start adopting Microsoft 365, it always starts from an IT perspective, from the IT side, right? And we're used to a world where the majority of the enterprises today are on the classic IT. And it's how it has been for the past years, of course, where you guys are probably using one single device control. The network is business-owned. You have corporate networks. You have a lot of legacy apps in that network that you have to control. You also have to do manual tasks that actually have a lot of heavy work there. You're probably reactive to attacks or to security threats. So there is this balance between this classic IT where we all live today versus that definition of modern IT. When we talk about modern IT, what we talk about, it's about having your management and operation within the cloud, where you can manage multiple devices, multiple OSs, when users within your company and external users can bring their device into work. It's cloud management. You have, of course, applications that are all software as a service. It's more automatic, so people is transparent to the operations and upgrades and stuff. And also, you can be reactive because you know insights and you know analytics, so you can be prepared for future threats or future reactions, right? But Microsoft understands that it's impossible, of course, to jump from one to another. And there's no like either or in one of those two models. It's we want you to be working with both at the same time. We want you to embrace both because that's the way that it should be done through a transition. And actually, Microsoft 365, what it does is it's a bridge that helps you move from classic IT or start moving to modern IT. So you can start using things that are more modern and at your own pace, at your own rhythm. And you can start enabling part of the modernization when you're ready, so you can manage risk. And of course, you don't have to throw up all the infrastructure that you already bought, all the investment that you have already done within the past. So in order to land this in a better way, in order to make sure that Microsoft 365 is landing or within your companies, we also have created a concept that is called the Microsoft 365 Power Device. You probably have heard about that in other sessions, but the Microsoft 365 Power Device, it's a device that runs Windows 10, Office 365, and it's being managed by EMS. The way that we describe this device, it's like the umbrella of the value prop for Microsoft 365. And it has 4 capabilities. We describe that as a device that needs to have 4 capabilities to be modern in the modern IT world. The first one is security, intelligent security. So that device should be always up to date, should be with the greatest security patches, should be super secure. Security, at the end of the day, is still #1 priority for the enterprises, right? And a lot of things that are around modernization is because of the security threats. The second part is easy to deploy and manage. Easy to deploy and manage where we can reduce costs from a management perspective, and actually the experience from the user, it's better. Always up to date. This is something that we used to call Windows as a service. Always up to date, where the device can have the latest updates, the latest information, the latest capabilities, and the latest security features. So it's always up to date as soon as we have more things to show on the device. And then, of course, it's a device that has proactive insights. It's a device that it brings telemetry, it brings behavior, so we can actually plan in advance future behaviors, and we can control better what can happen within our environment. So as part of that, we're going to be talking in the next minutes, in the next half an hour and 45 minutes, about the last 2 ones, being always up to date and proactive insights. And this is where you're going to see new tools that Rama and Steve are going to be presenting to you about this specific part of the modern 365 Power Device. But let's talk a little bit about what is always up to date. So when we talk about being always up to date, we want to make sure that you understand the entire ecosystem. The ecosystem that I'm referring to is an ecosystem formed by Microsoft. If you think about that, I mean, we've been changed the way to build Windows, building Windows, servicing Windows. It's different now. So we need you to understand why it's different and how it's different. The other player is the developer, the ISV, the software developer that is building applications in this world where we are servicing in a more cadenced rhythm. So the developer needs to understand how to develop in that environment, how to validate their application, how to test their application in that rhythm. And then the third piece is the enterprise. The enterprise as well, they're all connected and is willing to start applying this modern IT into their environment. So we're all interconnected at Gear. And in order for this to work together, we need to all understand what's happening in all the different players. For instance, from a Microsoft standpoint, one of the things that we have done is aligning our releases, Windows and Office, for the first time together. So Windows and Office will be shipping their releases twice a year in a semi-annual channel around March and around September timeframe, where they're going to be shipping feature releases. And then at the same time, every month, Windows and Office as well will be adding additional and frequently qualitative and security updates that are actually cumulative through all these channels. So your devices and your deployments are going to be easier in a way of controlling the Windows and Office cadence, which we understand that it was really hard in the past. Then from a developer standpoint, what we're doing is we're working with developers and with ISVs for them to understand what does this mean for them, right? What do they need to do to actually be ready the day that we shipped a new release? What do they need to change in their development processes, in their application lifecycle management, in order to test and validate their applications within our new releases? We're being very clear that if they don't do anything, there might be some consequences from a technical, from a business standpoint. So what we're trying is to help them understand that, help them through the process to be compatible from day zero. If there's any developer here, this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about in details, but there are some technical, there is some technical risk and business risks for them. From a technical standpoint, just think about your customers releasing or deploying Windows 10 every 6 months. And you need to be ready for them. If not, you probably will have dissatisfaction and they will change to another provider. Now, Steve is going to give us more details about that in a few minutes. Then from a business model, if you think about that, applications normally were very tied to the operating system sometimes. So we need to work as well on helping developers and ISVs to decouple their business model to make sure that they understand that their customers are going to be adapting Windows differently. Finally, from an enterprise standpoint, these are the challenges and things that we're hearing every day. Things like thousands of custom applications under my business responsibility. How are we going to test? How are we going to test that every 6 months, every year, every 18 months? Building a testing Win32 application, it's really, really challenging. Also, if they're monthly billed, how am I going to test this? And companies that it takes more than a year and more than 2 years to test their entire environment, how are they going to deploy in the rhythm that we are willing to do? So before getting into details, what is really happening is no matter what, this is an industry revolution. And no matter what, industry is moving from big production releases into frequent updates. And what customers are expecting from us is being on the greatest version all the time. Not only that, we're hoping not to have security threat. We're hoping to be deploying really fast to avoid those security threats that we're hearing every day as well. And of course, we're also like to be on the greatest innovation ever, new features that we're shipping, keep developing and adding to our enterprises the best capabilities that we can have so we can actually do things faster and we can enable our business to do better. And in order to give you more information about how to do that and how to talk about app compatibility and how to start using the tools that we have built around app compatibility, I'm going to invite Steve Diacetis to a stage to talk about how to work with application in your environment. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Etel. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining the session. My name is Steve Diacetis, and I work in the Windows Fundamental team. And our team's mission is focused all about OS compatibility, keeping the OS compatible from release to release. But in addition, besides OS compatibility, we also focus on tools and services to help our commercial customers get to Windows 10 and stay on Windows 10. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about what we do in terms of keeping the OS compatible, how we harness telemetry, and some of the programs that we have both for our commercial customers to help them get to 10, as well as for software developers. Ram is going to join me on stage at the end. I think we have about 5 demos lined up. So we'll get through some slides and we'll show you some demos. So the good news is that Windows 7 is, compared to Windows 7, I should say, Windows 10 is our most compatible OS ever. So if you're writing apps or running apps that are essentially user mode apps that are working with public APIs, 99% of these should just work on Windows 10. The biggest challenge we have really are those. The biggest challenge we have are with those applications that may install kernel mode drivers or work with undocumented or unsupported APIs. So let me talk to you a little about how we've gone from 7 to 10. First of all, part of our team does a lot of heavy engagement with other teams within Windows. So as we learn as new features come on early in the cycle, we consult with them to ensure that they're going to be compatible going forward. What we also do is a lot of proactive testing, in this case up to around 3,000 apps that we'll test proactively during a typical 6-month software cycle where we're putting out new feature releases of Windows 10. In addition, we test around 2,000 devices and peripherals within our lab in Redmond. And as needed, we'll engage with our hardware and software partners if we run into compat issues and we need their help to resolve them, up to 600 in a typical software cycle. Now, what we also do is leverage at scale telemetry that we're getting. And this is telemetry that is from everybody from the insiders to our retail population, as well as feedback we're getting from folks that submit through the feedback tool. And from there, we actually look at scale, trying to infer where the OS may be breaking an application. We try to detect that early and then fix it. Now, powering a lot of that telemetry and diagnostic or feedback is our insider population. And so they're getting insider builds very soon after we start a new 6-month software cycle. And that way, we can get feedback very early, including telemetry. So in terms of feedback process, we're in the neighborhood of 20,000 feedback submissions that we'll get and we'll look at from a compat point of view. Now, why do I raise this? Number one, this feedback and telemetry that we use is super important for us to keep the OS compatible. But in addition, it powers some of the services and tools that we'll talk about in a minute to help our commercial customers get to 10 and stay on 10 and stay current. So I want to call out a few areas around compatibility. The first one is around what we call the compatibility cookbook. And so we have published on the web a document that basically, I think we have one for 7, 8, and 10, that is written targeted toward a developer. And it helps them write applications that are compatible and stay compatible as we roll forward with Windows 10. So we're committed to continue to rev that document as we uncover if there are any breaking changes that we want to get out to our developer community. Secondly, if anybody's called support recently, I wanted to highlight sort of a policy that's been in place and will continue, which is all around supporting the public APIs that are out there today. If you run an app and you're debugging it, let's say on an insider build, and we accidentally break a public API, basically we're going to provide you support through CSS, and those fees will be refunded to you. So we'll continue to do that in the future. Now, I've talked a little bit about how we leverage telemetry within our team in order to keep the OS compatible. We're also committed to taking this telemetry and bringing it out to the public, specifically to both developers and to IT pros. So on the developer side today, if you write modern apps and you're submitting your apps to the store, you already have a dashboard to look at insights, including reliability information for your modern apps. I'm going to talk in a moment about our commitment to doing the same thing for traditional desktop Win32 apps. And then lastly, our commitment in terms of monitoring the ecosystem, we're going to continue to test regularly these top apps across multiple application categories, looking to try to find these issues fast, early, and fix them prior to shipping on a 6-month boundary. So real quick, I wanted to talk a little bit about telemetry. I know I've talked about it so far, but really this is valuable not just for the fundamentals team focused on compatibility, but it's valuable for multiple groups within Windows. Everything from being able to rapidly respond to issues that we see, not just on the insider population, but also on our retail builds, as well as understanding how our customers are using features and how we can improve them going forward. So the Insider program, how many folks here are familiar with the Insider program or maybe participating? So we get some hands, good. Thanks for joining. So the Insider program really is your option to be part of a community to get early access to Windows builds very, very early after we start a new software cycle. So we're shipping now on regular 6-month boundaries, and as we start, you have builds not too long after I get them internally at Microsoft. We build daily. We self-host the thousands of engineers in the Windows team pretty much on a daily basis. We're pulling down new builds. And probably on a weekly basis, these builds are going out to insiders, so you can get a very early look at what the health and stability of the OS, as well as provide us feedback on new features that we're building. And it's this pipeline of both feedback and diagnostic information that really lets us understand what's happening with our Windows users and their devices. Now, in addition to the Insider program, there's the Insider program for business. And a couple key benefits of this. Number one, you can join this program and you don't use an MSA, you use your AAD credentials. And by doing this, it enables you to increase the visibility of your organization's feedback within Microsoft. Now, what you can also do is register your organization's domain, allowing for group policies to be created so you can manage how these preview builds are deployed within your organization. Now, in addition, we have new tech community specifically for Windows insiders that are IT pros. This enables you to connect with global IT peers and find solutions to issues that you may be having. So to get started is very easy. Just go to insider.windows.com. Now, if you want to do it for, let's say, a home computer, you could sign in with your MSA, but while you're at work, you can sign in with your AAD credentials. As I mentioned, register your domain, and very soon after, you'll be able to get access to these preview builds. And of course, send us feedback on these preview builds. Okay, so I want to kind of move to the first demo. I mentioned earlier on the slide that was around our compatibility promise that we're committed to continue to bring insights to our application developers. We're doing it today for modern, and I'm happy to introduce to you today the Windows Desktop Application Program. And this is geared for Win32 developers that are distributing their apps outside of the store. But we will now be able to share telemetry that we have internally at Microsoft, bring it in an authenticated way to those developers that sign up within Dev Center. It's free. They'll now have one experience for managing both their modern and their desktop apps. So I'll take you through some screenshots of this, and then I'll explain to you when we're going to go live. So getting started with this program is really easy. If you have an MSA, you can visit developer.microsoft.com. If you're a new user, you'll sign in. Once you've done that, you'll then add one or more applications into your dashboard, and then we'll provide with the initial set of insights that we'll provide, and we have a long roadmap that we may be able to talk about if we have time. So registration is easy. If you're a new account, you can do this really, really quick. Sign in with your MSA. We'll capture some key contact information. If you are a returning user, you're already perhaps submitting apps into Dev Center, then we'll welcome you back and we'll simply provide you with the new terms for this new desktop program. There's nothing to pay on either of these workflows. Access to the data is free. So once you've done that, the next step is to add your one or more desktop applications. And so to do this, we're going to leverage code signing certs. So developers today are already using code signing to help identify their software for their customers. And so we'll use the same technique in order to provide that mapping between software that belongs to your organization and be able to correctly map the telemetry for those applications back in. So all you need to do is leverage the same code signing certs that you may be using already. And you can then repeat this process as many times if you have multiple code signing certs in use. So the process is pretty simple. You'll start on our website simply downloading a binary file that can be signed. We'll give you instructions on where to access the Windows SDK, in particular the code signing tool. Once you do that, you'll run locally a quick signing process and then simply upload that signed file to us. And this will prove that you have access to that code signing cert and will allow us to do the mapping between your binaries and your telemetry. So once that's done, there'll be probably a little bit of lag before you get telemetry. So these are some recent screenshots of the work that we are about to launch. We're not publicly available yet. We have a private beta that's in place. I'll take you through the dates in a moment. But basically, once we enable this with telemetry, after you've gone through and added your certificates, you'll be brought to a dashboard. Now, the look and feel of this will be similar to what modern developers have in Dev Center already. On the left-hand side, you can see Windows Explorer. This is test data. But the idea here is you will be able to see your one or multiple apps, select them, and then drill into the details. So in this case, I've selected Windows Explorer. And I'm able to look at this data over time based on certain reliability failures, things like crashes and hangs. Now, in addition, I can also look at this data filtered by application version, by OS version. And this is important because for developers that want to see how their applications are running on insider builds on the latest versions of Windows that's not been released at retail, they can actually look at the health of these applications and respond. The idea is that they would be ready in time, if not earlier, for when we ship the next 6-month feature update. Now, on the very bottom, where it says failures, what we'll also do is we will cluster or group multiple failures for a given application together. And the idea is that if we learn that, let's say, crashes are happening in a particular module at a particular offset, these are likely the same root cause for the developer to go in and debug. So we will bring those together to make it easier for the developer to diagnose the problems that they're having. If you click on one of those, we'll bring you into actually the instances reported, in this case, Windows error reporting logs that are submitted by Windows customers, submitted back to Microsoft, and now we're sharing with our developers. Now, what this will let you do is click on one or more of these specific instances of, let's say, a crash, and you'll be able to access everything from a stack trace, as well as actually download memory dumps to allow the developer to debug locally, hopefully root cause the issue, and then basically continue to support Windows 10 when we ship as well. So real quick on time frame. Next month, in October, we will start a private beta with a limited number of our commercial ISVs. The feature set will include registering, adding your applications, and getting an initial set of application health metrics, which include the ability to download cabs. We will then likely add application installs in November, and then we'll open this up to a public release by the end of the calendar year. Now, where we're going with this, we want to make it very easy to get additional insights, everything from allowing developers to bring their application symbols into the Dev Center to allow us to do a better job of mapping. It'll also allow for anomaly detection. So say, for example, we have software and we were able to compare your version 2 of the application version 1, we can privately notify you of, based on our telemetry, we think there may be issues with your newer version. May not have anything to do with the operating system, but the key point is sharing that telemetry back to our developers. So in summary, we're announcing a new program for Win32 or desktop developers to more easily support the Win10 servicing model. The program is free. All you need is a Microsoft account. We'll be launching in this calendar year. We're also looking at your feedback, or want your feedback. So I'll be in the Ready for Windows booth most of this week. If you're an internal developer and you want to talk more about features you'd like to see in the roadmap, I'd love to talk with you more offline. So let's switch gears. Now, we've talked about how Microsoft uses telemetry internally for the OS and how we're sharing some of that telemetry back out to developers. We're also leveraging this telemetry to bring insights out to IT pros in a website that we call Ready for Windows. Now, the purpose of our Ready for Windows is really twofold. Number one, in some ways, we wanted to get our message out. Windows 10 is the most compatible OS ever, and we wanted to showcase that looking at commercial Win 10 machines. And what do we understand about these apps? So if you remember earlier, I talked about proactively testing apps within our lab at Microsoft, as well as looking at telemetry at scale. We bring these insights out into a website called Ready for Windows. Now, what we've also done is that we know from talking to our commercial customers that there are some apps that they simply need a support statement for those applications in order to consider moving to 10. And so what we've done is we've allowed developers to come in, sign in with MSA or AAD credentials, and declare that they support Windows 10. And we're encouraging them to support not just one build of Windows 10, but we're asking them to support what we call an evergreen or modern support policy. The idea that is that they will support basically Windows 10 star. So that way their customers, as they continue to move forward with new feature updates on Windows 10, are confident that the applications they have in their corporate environment are going to continue to be supported as they move forward. So the way this, I'm going to do a demo on this. We're going to look at desktop applications, regular applications, and we've also just recently added Office add-ins, specifically COM add-ins. The idea here is that if you're considering going to Windows 10 and you may also be considering going to Office Pro Plus, then you may have Office COM add-ins in your environment that you also want to know how healthy those are. And so that's a recent addition. So let's see if we can bring this up. Okay. So if you visit readyforwindows.com, you'll get redirected. And the first thing I want to call out on the homepage are what we call featured software solutions. So these are 3 categories of software that we think are critical for an IT pro that's considering going to Windows 10. These need to be in place. This includes antivirus software, VPN, and virtualization. And so we'll showcase that there right on the homepage. Now what you'll see on here is a checkbox for whether it is supported or adopted, broken out by build. So you might say, well, what does adopted mean and what is supported? Supported is a simple case of a developer signing in and raising their hand saying, I support my application on Windows 10, and providing a support statement on their website. Adopted is where we derive an insight based on telemetry. And so we have several different adoption statuses, everything from basically that it's adopted or highly adopted. And what that means is from telemetry, we believe it's running healthy. But we also have the flip side, which is based on our testing or based on insights from telemetry. We can also, in a soft way, indicate that we think there's a problem with this application, specifically a certain version of an application. And that way, you can investigate more with that ISV to determine if this is a version that you should deploy with, or do your own testing, or move to a new version. So if I go back to the top, I'll show you a couple of examples. And look at Citrix Receiver. This is a desktop app, and once I click into it, the first thing you'll notice is a green checkbox, and this is saying that Citrix Systems has come to this site, signed in, and declared that they support Windows 10 for this particular app. But what we also do is we'll show insights across the last 3 releases of Windows 10 based on version. So you can see down here, this version is highly adopted, and from our data, it looks like it's running well. Now, there are certainly going to be versions that we just don't have enough data to make a call on that yet, and that's why we'll list out there insufficient data. So let me also quickly show you Office add-ins. So this is the a OneNote add-in. And what we're looking at here is, number one, similar to the Citrix example, it's supported by Microsoft on Office Pro Plus. And that statement, what this means is it's supported on the semi-annual channel of Office Pro Plus. Now, in addition, we will also showcase telemetry or adoption statuses based on this add-in. Because remember, these are COM add-ins. These are basically DLLs with COM interfaces on them. And so they run the risk of being incompatible not only with the OS that they're running on, but the host process, in this case, Office. And then let me also show you one more example of a unhealthy app, just to show you that they really exist. Anybody use Bing Bar in the audience? No one. That's, I guess, maybe good news. So Bing Bar is an example where, I'm going to scroll down. There are many cases where it says contact provider. And what that's saying is these early versions of Bing Bar running on Win 10, they're unhealthy. If you have them in your organization, you're looking to go to Win 10, you're likely going to have problems with them, and so we will bring those to your attention. Okay, so I think that is the end of the demo. Let me introduce Rama Shastri to the stage. So just to recap, Ram and I are both in the Windows Fundamentals team. There's a big investment in how we use telemetry. We use it internally to keep the OS compatible, and we're bringing it out both to our developers and our IT pros. So the telemetry combined with the testing we do internally, it's foundational for what Ram is going to show you next, which is all about how do we now leverage these insights to make moving to Windows 10 faster and staying current faster and easier as well. Thanks, Rama.
Thanks, Steve. Good to be here. Thanks for coming to this session. I'm going to talk about this proactive insights piece that Atul introduced as a core pillar of the M365 device. Basically, the Windows Analytics, how many of you are familiar with Windows Analytics or are using Windows Analytics today? Just a quick show of hands. Yeah, there's a few people in the room. So Windows Analytics is a basket of these solutions and services. There are 3 of them today, and the first one is called Upgrade Readiness. What we do here is helping enterprise customers rationalize their app compat issues during Windows migration projects. So the first solution actually helps you inventory all of your devices, your apps, drivers, Office add-ins, and then even IE site discovery. And I'll show you some stuff in a few minutes. And what it helps you do is rationalize all of this stuff and analyze it to get to the upgrade readiness of moving to a newer version of Windows. Once you are upgraded and on the path to the next version, the update compliance solution here helps you keep these devices up to date. And that means you're always up to date with your security updates, your monthly quality updates, and then even if you're using Defender, then you can keep track of your Defender signatures and whether they are up to date. And then lastly, the solution called Device Health that we're really proud of is going to help you monitor your environment for OS health issues. And then pretty soon, we're also planning to invest in app health and driver health, performance type insights, including boot times and login health. So those are together, these 3 solutions form this Windows Analytics solution that we're shipping. Upgrade readiness, because it is compat related, we support that on Windows 7 and 8 as well, because we want to help customers move to Windows 10. The other two solutions, Update Compliance and Device Health, are available on Windows 10 and up only. The other caveat here is that upgrade readiness and update compliance are available at Windows 10 basic level of telemetry. The basic level of telemetry is needed to decide whether your device can be up to date and is ready to be upgraded. And that's the level of data that we collect. And you can go online and look for what is the data that we collect from your machines, since we are really transparent about what we collect. So that's pretty much all the three solutions. Let me walk you through how this whole data circuit looks like. So you start off at the bottom left corner with your client machine. Once you configure it for the right level of telemetry, and then you've done the network pieces to make sure that the device can talk to the Microsoft front end, the data moves over to our cloud. And from there, we are actually taking all the machines that belong to a specific customer, and we split it into a tenant-specific view that can be accessed on the Microsoft Operations Management Suite dashboard. We actually ask you to stamp your devices with a GUID, which we call the commercial ID. And this commercial ID is used to go group machines that belong to one customer. Okay? And I'll show you all of these things in a demo in a few minutes. You can configure all of your client-specific settings through SCCM and Intune, through group policies or CSPs. The other thing that we are working on is actually a good, deeper integration with Config Manager and Intune. We understand that a lot of analytics is just data and is not helping you necessarily take action. And what we want to do is correlate all of these analytics and insights so that they're meaningful enough for you to take direct action. And we want to enable that action with deployment tools like Config Manager and Intune. So let me jump over real quick to the upgrade readiness demo. Did I lose the screen here? Okay, I'm going to grab my laptop over here. It might be easier to hook this up real quick. I think I'm going to need some AV help as I switch to the laptop. I don't see the screen come up over here. How do I get my laptop to project over there? Should I just dock it over here?
Oh, no, it's fine. Just,
Okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to plug this back in here. So, all right. So, quick thing. So I'm logged in here into Operations Management Suite, and what you can see here is Operations Management Suite is a cloud-based solution. It's basically, if you're familiar with SCOM, this is basically a cloud-based solution that's a follow-on for SCOM. Okay. I'm going to show you starting with settings first. So if you go into settings, you actually come in here into Operations Management Suite. You get a free subscription. You sign up for a workspace. And then you have to take your Operations Management workspace and associate it with an Azure subscription. Okay. If you don't have an Azure subscription, you can go in and sign up for a free subscription for 30 days. And then you can actually go in and actually look at your insights for 30 days. After 30 days, Azure actually comes in and suspends your account unless you plan to go to a pay-as-you-go account. Okay? So once you come in and subscribe to the OMS workspace, once you go into settings, you're going to see a Windows telemetry tab under connected sources. And you see this commercial ID, GUID. What we need you to do is take this commercial ID GUID and actually stamp it into the registry of your client from which you are supposed to get insights. Once you get the configuration on the client done, you're going to start seeing data flow into this workspace. So let me start off with what we see in upgrade readiness. So here's our upgrade readiness workspace. It's loaded with about 5,000 or so devices. This is all test data. You can see that the target version is set to Windows 10 1703, which is the latest version of Windows that is out in the market right now. And you see that about 5,000, all the 5,000 computers are upgraded. So this is a great customer who's staying up to date. You see that there are 8,000 apps that are installed on these 5,000 computers. And this is a typical scenario in a medium-sized company. We see a really large number of apps that are installed on these machines. And one of the biggest challenges is how does an IT administrator analyze these apps quickly so that they can focus on the apps that require attention. So what we've done is help you with the rationalization process. And the first step we do is take the apps that are installed on less than 2% of the machines, and we move them into the low install count bucket. And this is a very common step that we see IT admins do, right? If an app is installed on a very small number of machines, potentially these are not something that require your attention right away. And if there are any issues with those apps, that can be dealt with during a help desk process or a support process. Okay? That kind of cuts off the long tail of apps that require attention and leaves you with a more manageable number of apps that you can go focus on. And then the next step, what we do is help you with how many of these apps actually have issues. And this is the stuff that we leverage from what Steve was talking about, the internal testing we do to understand which of these apps require attention. Okay. So as you can see, there's about 24 apps that have known issues. And we give you guidance around if there are any fixes known for these apps, we give you guidance around that as well. And then the next thing we do is leverage the ready for Windows signal that Steve was demoing earlier today and hooking that up into Upgrade Analytics specifically for your company. Okay. So out of the 600 or so apps that you were trying to focus on, almost 480 of them actually have a support signal or an adopted signal from Ready for Windows, which tells us that these are low-risk apps because other people are using these apps on Windows 10, or the ISVs or the developer has declared support on these apps. Okay. That kind of leaves you with about 100 apps from the 600 that need your attention. And those most commonly are line of business or custom apps that are developed for your own company that will need to go through a validation process. And then the other thing that upgrade readiness can show you is a prioritized list of apps and drivers in what order they need to be tested in, which is this blade over here. And it also helps you quickly move more and more machines to a ready to upgrade state. So as you can tell, if you test 127 apps and drivers, you can get 10% of your machines over into the green bucket. And if you test about 536, you can get 80% of your machines over to the ready to upgrade state. So this is a great insight for IT admins to tell where they want to go in and focus their effort. And then lastly, I want to show you a monitor blade. Let's say you've gone through all of this exercise, you moved more and more machines to green state, and now you started your deployment process. Once you start deploying, we can show you the deployment status of all the machines that have upgraded in the last 30 days. But more importantly, you are more interested in the ones that have failed or have had progress stalled, and those are the ones that need attention. So the focus is for you to be able to drill in, look at what the failure is, and then take action, appropriate action to fix those issues. The other issue that we've heard feedback on is around driver management in the enterprise. There are a lot of drivers that have updates on Windows Update, and then it's an onerous process for IT admin to go in and stage these drivers down into their config manager or WSUS to be able to roll them out to all of their machines. And in many cases, drivers get missed, and then when you upgrade, you see the dreaded yellow bang in your device manager. This driver error, driver issues blade that you see here is a great insight to be able to drill into machines which have driver issues. Either the driver's not found, or driver has an issue and hasn't started or hasn't installed. And I think all of these are good issues to drill in, especially on upgraded machines, because they could impact the ability of peripherals like USB keyboards or mouse or other peripherals like printers not working. And then lastly, there is an aspect of user feedback. So as Steve was mentioning, Feedback Hub is available on Windows 10 for users to give feedback. That feedback used to come directly back to us, to Microsoft, and what we've done is take that feedback and hook it up so that IT admins can access that feedback for their company. So as you upgrade more and more users onto the latest and greatest Windows 10, you can see direct feedback from them on what is it that they like, what is it they don't like, and if they're having any app compat issues with apps or drivers, they can give you feedback. And not only that, they can upvote based on feedback given by previous users. And this is a great tool for IT admins to, again, focus where to go in and give attention to, especially with help desk and support type actions. Okay. And then we also have Office add-ins. This is another area where we're trying to partner with Office, because Windows and Office frequently get updated together. Atul talked about the aligned release schedule. We're going to see more and more aligned deployments at customer sites, and we want to get richer insights into Office. So we're starting off with Office add-ins, which is an area of a great compat concern. And then lastly, web apps are super important in the enterprise. We have an IE site discovery. This is from IE 11's enterprise mode IE. We've got these insights hooked up directly into upgrade readiness as well. At this point, I'm going to switch over to update compliance, which is the second solution in Windows Analytics. And as you see on the left-hand side, we've got this overview blade, very similar to what you saw in upgrade readiness. But we've got this hub and spoke model in the overview blade that lets you quickly drill into the area that you are wanting to get insights into. So the first insight is around security update status. So you can tell quickly which of your machines are lagging behind on security updates. This is an area of great concern, especially with all the ransomware stuff that was in the news recently. It's a great way to quickly drill into which machines are missing critical security updates and how do you get those remediated very quickly. The second area is around feature update status. So this is where you can tell, Microsoft is going, and Office, both Windows and Office are moving to a twice-a-year release cadence. And then you can go in and look into insights around which of your machines are up to date with Windows right now. And very soon we'll bring Office insights in here as well. And then lastly, if you're a Defender customer, and if you're using Defender for antivirus, you can drill into whether your signatures are up to date on all your devices. This is, again, a great security insight, and it helps you keep track of your security insights along with all the back-end pieces that are available in advanced threat protection. And lastly, I want to show you device health. And this is one of our newest solutions, and this is still work in progress. But we started off with the hooking up the first piece of insight, which is around OS health. So you are all familiar with the dreaded blue screen of death. What we've done here is a list of all the machines that have encountered a fatal OS crash, and we hook that up. This is a 2-week interval in which we can show how many machines have had, how many number of crashes that's the insight that we've got here. In addition, most of these blue screens or OS health issues are caused by drivers. And what we've got here is a list of drivers that are causing these crashes. And it helps you quickly drill into which of the drivers need updates. And usually what we observe is that these enterprises have such a fragmented driver version ecosystem. And if you look at any specific driver, there's probably going to be 20 or 30 versions of these drivers lying around. And what you can do is look into what is the driver health for each of these driver versions, and then make sure that you're able to upgrade all of these machines to a consistent version of driver that's a lot more healthy across your ecosystem. The second piece of insight that we've hooked up here is called Windows Information Protection. As you know, people are getting more and more comfortable with putting work data on personal machines, personal data on work machines, and this is becoming very challenging because IT administrators need to be able to protect their work-related data. If you're familiar with Windows Information Protection, the feature allows you to actually move data from your work-related app into a personal app, but it'll throw a window of warning that says, hey, you're trying to transfer information. What this insight is doing is every time the warning window comes up, we actually record it, and we actually show it so that the IT admin can go through the apps, the app list that is showing these warnings, and decide if a specific app needs to be added to a work-related whitelist so that the user, when they're interacting between two separate apps, they don't get this annoying warning window. This is an area where we're planning to innovate a lot. What we are going to see us do is bring in application health around application crashes, application reliability, but also around driver crashes and driver reliability. The other area where we are planning to invest in is around performance, and that's login health and also boot times and performance-related insights. So let me switch over to back to the slides. Perfect. I got it. Okay. Yeah. So one of the common questions I get asked is, how do I get started on Windows Analytics? This is a typical customer scenario that we observe, and I wanted to share this with you. One of the first things that our customers do is actually review the list of data that we collect from every single machine, and then make sure that they are reviewing this with their InfoSec or their security counterparts and get a sign-off from them. Once you get that sign-off, you go in and set up your OMS workspace and link it to the Azure subscription. You could either get your company's Azure subscription, link it, or get a free Azure subscription, as I was telling you earlier. And then you take your commercial ID, stamp your machines. We've seen most of our customers start with a small number of machines because they want to go test it. They want to go play around with the data from 10 or 15 machines, convince themselves that there's value in the data and the insights. And then once they're convinced of the value, they can go ahead and widely deploy across all the machines in their environment. At this point, I want to switch over to this last topic of this presentation around modernization of apps. One of the things that Steve elaborated in the presentation was how compatible Windows 7 era apps are on Windows 10. You could choose to just continue down that path, but then you'd be missing out on the rich feature set that Windows 10 has around speech and ink and face recognition. So to start through this modernization process, what we recommend is that you start with the first step, which is converting your Win32 app to what we call a Centennial app using the desktop app converter. Once you put it through the converter, you're going to get an AppX package that you could go upload into the store for business and manage the update and install of your apps very easily through the store for business. If you wanted to move through the maturity model for the app modernization, the next thing you can do is start enhancing your app code with Windows 10 specific APIs. And this is where you bring in the rich feature set that's in Windows 10 with speech recognition, face recognition, Windows Hello, and then also the ink features. Okay? And then as you get your app into a universal Windows platform app or UWP app, then this app becomes available across all kinds of devices. And that includes, you could take your desktop app and expand it to run on mobile, Xbox, IoT, or HoloLens. And that kind of opens doors up and opportunities for you to put your app on a lot more device families. And that's what the app modernization journey looks like. So that was my last piece that I wanted to talk about, but wanted to summarize pretty much everything that Atul, Steve, and I talked about. So from an application compatibility purpose, there's Windows Insider that you want to go in and enroll into so that you can get early access to builds and you can know the app compatibility. The second aspect is there is a compatibility cookbook where we put in information about breaking changes to the OS that could impact your app ecosystem. And then from a solutions perspective, we have the two big ones, which is Ready for Windows and then the Windows Analytics. And then we also have the desktop application program coming soon. And then lastly, for modernization, we have desktop app converter and then the Windows Store for Business. So we recommend that you explore all of these. There are a lot of sessions at Ignite this week on all of these topics. So I encourage you to find the sessions and attend as many as you can. So quick takeaway, join Insiders, review the Compat Cookbook. If you just search for Windows 10 Compat Cookbook, you can find the link to it. Declare support on Ready for Windows if you're an app developer. And then create a Dev Center account so that you can get access to the developer, the desktop application program. And then there's a program called Fast Track. We didn't talk about that, but you can go search for it. And that's where you find a lot of help and guidance for both Office as well as Windows, and it's a great way to engage with Microsoft through Fast Track. And then if you haven't played around with Windows Analytics, I encourage you to go look at all the material out there and then start piloting or playing around with Windows Analytics. And then lastly, modernize your applications with Desktop Bridge, and that's the desktop app converter. And then we love your feedback. Please find one of us. Steve will be at the Ready for Windows booth on the expo floor. There is a Windows Analytics booth at the expo floor. Both of these are under the Modern Workplace section. Come find us. We'd love to talk to you, get your feedback about your particular situation. Okay. And then you can find these slides online after the conference is over, and you can watch the video, but there's a bunch of resources. And then here's the sessions that are available that are throughout this week. Since it's Monday today, we wanted to put a list of sessions out there so that if these are not on your radar, you can get a quick look into it. Okay. So that's pretty much everything that we wanted to talk to you about. If there are any questions, we're happy to take questions. If you are going to ask a question, I encourage you to step to the mic in the middle of the rooms, in the middle of the rows. No questions. Okay, thank you very much for coming, and we wish you a great week over here at Ignite. Thank you.